Coach, I asked Cam the same question. I guess Keyshawn likes these neutral court games pretty good, but how big was his contributions today, especially his blocks in the last few minutes?
I've been praising Keyshawn as much as I can going into the season, and deservingly so, because he's been a top 2, top 3, easily consistent approach, mindset to his work. He had an unbelievable offseason, and what people have to remember is he's not used to playing big minutes. He hadn't played big minutes in less than a handful of games since he's arrived in college, so it's new for him. And I thought tonight you could see him getting the work, get rewarded for his work that he put in the offseason. And we talk a lot about that, and we talk about two guys post-game when it comes to that topic, is that the work doesn't always show up when you want it to, but eventually it will, and that's what I told Keyshawn. I mean, he looked like practice. He looked like practice, and being a stat sheet shuffer. And along those same lines, the work doesn't always pay off exactly when you want it to, but it will, is Cameron Matthews, right? I mean, who would have thunk at any point up until now that I'd ever run a play to get him the ball late in the game to shoot a free throw? And, he delivered. His stroke looked really, really good early. He was confident. But again, people don't see the behind the work that he's putting in. And I think people think that, he's off to a bad start again, he's going to be a poor free throw shooter. Who knows what, the next game or the next week or the next month will happen. But when we needed him this afternoon to seal this thing, he made him.
Coach, I know the calendar says November 17th, but that game felt like could have been played on March 17th. That was a really intense game. How much does playing a game like that this early in the season benefit your team the rest of the year?
Yeah, I got to think with portal additions, older guys, for most programs, that the early basketball is a little better quality than maybe it's been in the past because of just the obvious. Been there, done that. They got game experience. They've been around. And we have so much access to them now, in the offseason, June, July. And school starts, you got limitations on hours, but we got plenty of time to get everybody up to speed. And then with how our schedule unfolded, people that were paying attention, I've been saying it's time. We needed to, play someone that looked like us and was from a similar conference. And, we had learned and grown in the previous 3 games, but it was time. I wanted to, they wanted to. And obviously it didn't look very good at halftime, but really proud of our guys in terms of their response. I didn't know. We hadn't been in those situations with this team. I didn't know. I know what I wanted to happen, and fortunately it did. And that's something that we'll lean on, all year long, because we're going to be in that situation again at some point this year.
Go Bob here to coach's right on the end.
All right. Talk a little more about Matthews. I've watched him play all through high school, up now through college. Where is he at in his game right now, and what do you expect him to be like as you get closer to tournament time?
Well, we know him well. He knows us well. He knows the system inside and out. Right? Nobody in our team that understands our schemes, offensively, defensively. He literally can play the 1 through 5. I mean, he is directing traffic out there, and people, wouldn't understand, all the value that he brings because of his basketball IQ. He's got an unbelievable feel and understanding of basketball, and then with his experience here and what we're trying to do, he's at the top of the list of getting people organized. And I mean, he talks to me a little bit coming off the court, and about what he sees out there, and sometimes we do what he tells me because he's out there, and I respect his mindset that way. And I just expect him to continue to getting better. He's made 1 3, he's 1 for 1. He works on it. He made the free throws today. Obviously, what everyone wants me to say, he's got to stay out of foul trouble. Right? He gets in foul trouble. He always gets in foul trouble. But he's got to play explosively. He's got to be athletic. That's who he is. He just got to pick his spots a little bit more. But if he doesn't do that, people are going to say, "What happened to Mook? Why isn't he disrupting?" So there's a risk reward involved, and fortunately we managed it okay tonight.
Go to this gentleman here in the Titan sweater.
Coach, 2 separate questions. First, just talk to me about how impressive Josh Hubbard was tonight, and then bigger picture, kind of like, what have you seen from him as he's turning himself into a leader on this basketball team?
He got off to a slow start, but I wasn't fazed by it. I'm sure he wasn't either. He's put the work in, and he's been there, done that, and you know, he was a big catalyst of why we won the game. You know, he made some shots, certainly got the crowd into the game, which was nice. I mentioned on the radio that, you know, it was dead in here in the first half, and deservingly so. We didn't give him much to cheer about. You know, we were struggling. It was 11 at halftime. We were 1 for 12 from 3, and it just didn't look very good. And I didn't know what to expect in the second half. You know, I knew what I wanted to happen, but Josh led the way. You know, he got it going. And what you'll see from our team is guys know it when he does, and they're going to find him. You know, and get him the basketball when he's on one of those runs. And what was your second part of the question?
Just what have you seen from him
Yeah,
as he
sure.
turned himself into a leader?
Yeah, 2 things about that. You know, local people know I've talked about it a ton. That's been really, really cool. You know, I don't need to urge him. He's just natural at it. And now that he's got a year under his belt and as accomplished as he already is, you know, and he works so hard that he's the perfect candidate to be a leader. And he's about us and the program and the right thing. And so when he's talking to the guys, you know, they're locked in. And I love, you know, seeing it. I'm sure there's plenty of talk going on when I'm not around, but I trust, you know, what he's telling our guys. And equally important is, you know, he was obviously very explosive and dynamic prior to coming here, but he worked his tail off this summer. He is more explosive. He's in better shape than he's ever been. Like the play he made, I can't remember, 4 or 5 minutes, maybe 6, I don't know, but right in front of our bench, and he drove it right over to the right block, and he showed his work. Like I told Dominic Walker after the game, our strength coach, I said all I could think about when he did that was that was the work paying off, because he looked different when he did that. It was late in the game. He just left him there, right? And you know, so I'm sure he feels good to know that you know, he's in a better place that way.
Back to Paul and Brian.
You got, you've talked about it's going to be an ever-growing process with your centers, but including Murphy and Nwoka, you got 25 rebounds from that position tonight. Obviously, Nwoka wasn't that much of a factor offensively, but he did hit the boards pretty well tonight.
Yeah, you know, Murph, I don't really include him when I'm talking about our development of our 5s. I mean, he plays the 5 for us because it's required right now. But, you know, I thought Mike has shown flashes. You know, for him to get 11 rebounds, I guarantee it's the most rebounds he's ever gotten in a college basketball game. And he had some big boy ones in the middle of traffic. He had 2 assists, 1 turnover. You know, he made some mistakes defensively, but he helped us. He played almost 16 minutes, and that's a big, you know, rebound per minute. That's off the chart. You know, he missed a bunny. You know, I'm sure that shook his confidence a little bit. That could have maybe changed his offensive, you know, flow. But he was really, really big, and certainly we've talked about Murph and his production tonight.
That was a very athletic, long team you just played. You only had 7 turnovers tonight, and I just saw the stat that Hubbard through 4 games doesn't have a turnover yet. That's pretty impressive. You know, how pleased were you with the way your team was able to protect the ball?
Well, unfortunately, the cat's out of the bag, and the radio people brought it up to me. I'm like, no.
So I didn't jinx it, is what you're saying?
No, I tried to find some wood, and all I could find was here. And you know, he was, yeah, and I was telling them the same thing. Like, and the problem that, you know, I have is like when he has one in practice, I'm like, what are you doing? You know, and he's got to be looking at me like, I have one in a game in 3 games, and then he does it again. And the game slowed down for him. That's experience. You know, the game has just slowed down for him, and you know, he's making great decisions with the basketball in his hands. As far as our team, I mean, you followed us. I mean, you know, who knows how it'll look in a month, but the results are really good. That this team is going to take care of the basketball a little bit better than maybe a couple teams that we've had since we've arrived.
Time for a couple more. We'll go back